Good morning, gang. Happy Monday morning. Well, we have 1 week left in September. Next Monday is the last day of the month, last day of the fiscal year, too. Which means a lot of things are going to change. I mean, we have a budget standoff in Washington, we know that. And how that affects us, we'll see. I mean, I think Americans have really got used to just unbridled spending by Washington, wasting money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't directly affect us quickly. Let's put it that way. I mean, it does cause more inflation. We all see that. Inflation's one thing. When you can't get anything, doesn't matter what it costs, okay? If you need a new set of tires for your car, you don't care if they cost $2,000. Well, you care. But when you go to the tire shop, they say, we don't have tires and we have no idea when we're going to get them. At that point, you don't care what they cost. You need tires, right? Yeah, we're about ready to face that again, potentially. In case you don't know, the Longshoremen's Union, if you will, the Port Dock Workers Union, is threatening to go on strike a week from today. This is kind of important. Now, as preppers, what do? We accumulate stuff, we learn how to do stuff, we gather skills, we gather materials, we gather a whole bunch of stuff just in case. Remember COVID? And all of a sudden we had astronomical shipping rates coming from China because nothing was moving in the ports of Los Angeles and the ports of Long Beach. That was small compared to what's potentially coming next week. We are looking at a strike that will cover the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. That accounts for 60% of the goods that come into the United States. This strike is feasibly going to put 45,000 people out of a job. Now, granted, they're the ones going on strike, but the union kind of determines what they do. And we know the difference between union leadership and union membership at this point. I mean, just look at what the Teamsters did last week. Nearly 60% of the members want to see Trump as the next president, but the union leadership said we're not endorsing anybody. Interesting how that works. Give you this. By all estimates, if the union goes on strike for 1 day, that will screw up the supply chain for 6. If the union goes on strike for 1 week, that screws up the supply chain for 6 weeks. Now we're talking nearly to Thanksgiving. If they go on strike for 2 weeks, it's 2025 before we have anything coming in on the East Coast anywhere. You start looking at products that are coming in along the East Coast. That'd be pretty much anything from Europe. Oh, that would be oil. Yeah, okay. This is where it all comes, the Gulf of Mexico. It's where the refineries are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You start thinking how that's going to affect you. What's it going to do to gas prices? What's it going to do to retail prices? Oh, you can count on those going up. We're now hearing that if this strike goes on, that shipping containers, the cost to ship a shipping container would exceed $20,000, okay? That's above what it was during COVID. Remember how expensive everything got then? Yeah. Hasn't come down either. So let's start adding some more supply chain inflation to what we already have. This is the thing. Now, you do have the Taft-Hartley Act, if you know what that is. That is something that authorizes the president, Biden, the man who does all the work, okay, to impose an 80-day cooling off period to delay a strike. That might be beneficial. Except our illustrious leader has said that he doesn't intend to use it, doesn't intend to exercise the Taft-Hartley Act. Why? Because it could have an effect on union votes. And he's worried about Kamala Harris getting reelected. And if Biden comes up and says, no, we're not going to let the union go on strike, well, then we have an issue of the union says, well, the Democrat Party isn't supporting us. Do you see how this issue's coming about? The Democrats are more than willing to sell out our economy for votes. I don't know enough about what the union here is trying to gain out of the threat of a strike. I don't know what the contract negotiations are. What I do know is that this is a problem we have. We all are very, very, very reliant on foreign products. Whether it comes from Europe, whether it comes from the Middle East, whether it comes from China, whether it comes from South America, okay? You can think about any of our electronics, you can think about a lot of our food, you can think about pretty much every sort of consumable item that we use, we import a lot. We can thank Bill Clinton for a lot of that. Remember, we're going to get away from being a manufacturing economy. We're going to go to being a service economy. Yeah, that's worked out real well, hasn't it? Okay. We don't build anything here anymore, but God knows we've got enough Uber drivers out there, right? Because we're a service economy now. If this strike goes down next week, you can expect to start seeing sparse, I won't say bare, but sparse store shelves. Remember, this is also the time where we're having a season change. Now, in some places, I wouldn't doubt, here it is mid-September, they're probably already advertising Christmas trees, okay? But this isn't the time yet that people are going out to buy snow shovels, winter coats, sweaters, that sort of stuff. Anything that you use in the winter, blankets, heaters, all that sort of stuff. The American public usually waits right until they need it before they buy it. Don't believe me? Think about every hurricane that hits the East Coast. We know it's coming for a week, 10 days, but the day before it's supposed to strike, that's when everybody goes to Walmart to buy plywood, right? Or Home Depot. We have a tendency to wait till the last minute. We may be at the last minute. Not saying for sure, but I'll give you this as just a thought. Maybe go through your preps, stuff that you're going to need for the winter. Hey, I need more socks, or I need a couple extra blankets. I wouldn't say canning jars at this point. We're probably pretty much done with that for the year. But any of those things that you might need, batteries, light bulbs, all that sort of stuff, you might want to go get them this week. Because if the strike happens next week, just like everything else, you can expect prices to shoot up instantly. Don't believe me? Look at any time. Let's use gasoline as an example. We have news that comes out that Saudi Arabia is going to cut oil production. Within a day, gas prices jump 30, 40 cents. We have news that Saudi Arabia is going to increase oil production. 3 or 4 weeks later, gas prices have trickled down a little bit. That's how it works. If you need something in your supplies, I'd advise to pick it up this week. Because next week, not only could it be a lot more expensive, but 2 weeks from now, it might not even be there. In about 2 weeks, we have Amazon Prime Day, right? Everybody knows this. I think it's October 8th and 9th this year. A lot of stuff gets shipped from China. That might drastically affect Amazon's sales. Yeah. We can't have a Prime Day because we can't ship anything. Might be a problem. In, about 2 months, we have Thanksgiving, Black Friday, okay? If this strike goes on for a week, there might not be any Black Friday sales. That messes up Christmas, sure. But remember what Black Friday is. The reason it's called Black Friday. It's the day of the year that the retailers finally go into the black. In other words, they're still losing money right now. When they can put those sales up, this is when they finally go, poof, okay, we now have 4 weeks to be profitable for the year. You don't have any product to sell, so much for profitability. And then it becomes a huge snowball. Not Christmas, but gee, companies aren't profitable, they're going to shut down stores. Look, what did we talk about? Macy's, I think last week or a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about, announced closing down 60 some odd stores. You're seeing other companies go bankrupt. Retailers that have been around, Big Lots has announced bankruptcy. Yeah, how many more do you think we're going to have if there is no product? Right? Oh, and then what happens when those companies go bankrupt? Oh, or lose a lot of money. No, the stock price of those companies goes down, which now affects the mutual funds that you hold in your 401k. So now all of a sudden, your retirement is less. People don't think too much when they hear, oh, there's a strike going on. This is an important one. You could say, oh, Boeing's going to go on strike. Okay, not a good thing, but when's the last time you flew on a plane? Do you care if there's 2 less planes in the air? Not really. Okay. But something like this one affects everybody, whether you're a consumer or not. Okay? If you're as self-sufficient as you can be, if you live off the grid, right? You still got to get fuel. There's still certain things you need to get. You may not be able to get them. They may cost way too much than you can afford. But when it comes down to basic necessities, food, clothing, that sort of stuff, and you can't get that, that's when people need to worry. We need to watch this. We need to hope that cooler heads prevail, because obviously the potato in the White House is more concerned about Kamala Harris getting votes than she is about, or than he is, than either one of them is really, about saving our economy. The economy is the number one issue on the voters' minds. They may say it's abortion, where Kamala Harris leads. That's about 16% of the people that say it's their number one issue. They may say it's illegal immigration, which is a big issue for the Republicans that Trump leads on significantly. That's about 16% of the people that say it's their number one issue. Over 40% of the country says the economy is the number one issue. Imagine what happens. You want an October surprise? the dock workers union goes on strike, and there's no food in the stores, there's no clothing in the stores, there's no nothing in the stores. I'm not saying it's going to get that bad, okay? But if this happens, we either have a shortage of goods, and most certainly we have price hikes in those goods. How's your paycheck doing right now? Stretched pretty thin, right? Maybe stretched just a little bit thinner if this doesn't end. And from what we're hearing from the ruling party right now, they don't care. Pinball out.